It's my pleasure today to introduce Dr. Susan Madsen. She is the professor of organizational leadership at the John M. Huntsman School of Business at Utah State University. She's also the founding director of the Utah Women and Leadership Project. This is a bit of a homecoming for Dr. Madsen, as we say in Provo, welcome home. She received her bachelor's degree from BYU, a master's degree from Portland State, and a doctorate from the University of Minnesota. And she and her husband, Greg, are the proud parents of 4 adult children and 6 grandchildren. Dr. Madsen is a well-known global scholar, authoring or editing 9 books and publishing hundreds of articles, chapters, and reports. Her research has been featured in many publications that you have heard of, such as U.S. World Report, The Atlantic, New York Times, etc. And she is a well-known speaker in local, national, and international settings. And this afternoon, we are thrilled that she agreed to linger here in Provo after giving a noon lecture at the to the Global Women's Studies group, and we're really thrilled that she is speaking as part of our public affairs lecture series. Dr. Madsen.
Thank you. Turn on my. Oh, I just have fun these days.
Can we pause just for a moment?
And take a picture?
No, actually, there are kolaches.
Oh, you forgot to.
Yeah, we forgot. You know what? Let's wait until the end. Let's just go.
It's all about me now.
Yeah. So you'll earn the kolaches after you listen to the lecture.
Okay. All right. Well, it's good to be here. I appreciate the attendance, and I loved connecting with a lot of students at noon. And looking forward to this. A piece of it's going to be similar when I tell you about, I haven't called a case study up here at the Boulder Way Forward, but have some differences as well. And I don't like standing behind there. So one of the things that's really cool about being old is that you just don't care as much about what people think. And so you will get me. That's all. Today in my passion and a few tears and so forth. So excited about talking to you today about not just careers, formal careers, the way you say that, but about, or the way we think about that, but how it fits, pieces of careers fit together in different kinds of things. So this is the topic. And the mission, before I start, I am a professor, do that stuff. What professors do, publish. I do a lot of things that professors don't do, like writing editorials and I'm a change agent. I take research and do change. So I do a lot of things that are not in the ivory tower, we call it, because my concern at this point is about strengthening, making sure that more Utah girls and women, and I used to do more global, and I'm still doing that a little bit, but the work in Utah has pulled me in pretty much all I have here, and so that's what I'll talk about, but talk about it in terms of opportunities for civic engagement and just how everything fits together. So I actually started the Utah Women in Leadership Project. It was supposed to be a 1-year project in 2009. Commissioner of Higher Education in Utah and the Governor's Office of Educational Excellence asked me to do some research in the state of Utah on why more women weren't going to college and graduating. Things have changed since then some, although I will tell you on the Wallet Hub's worst and best states for women's equality, Utah we're so far the worst of any state on that, so far. And one of the 17 metrics is the disparity and the difference between men and women getting graduate degrees. And there's no state that's even close to us. We have the biggest gap by far in graduate degree attainment. So there's some interesting things. Anyway, I said, okay, I'll work on this for a year. And I knew the Commissioner of Higher Education pretty well. Oh, okay, we're still good. I'm like, don't go away. So did the research, and then it went into year 2, and then almost 17 years later, I kept trying to close the loop. I'm a close the loop person. Let's close the loop. And finally, about 7 years ago, one of the vice presidents when I was at UVU said, Susan, this is your call. Just stop trying to close the loop on this. And so I have continued. So what we do is we serve Utah and its residents by producing relevant, trustworthy, and applicable research. So I'm a scholar, I'm a researcher, and we provide the research for the state on girls and women gender issues. We're the entity that does that. So we've done research on all topics from domestic violence, sexual assault, entrepreneurship, the pay gap, educational levels, K through 12, issues around that, health across a lifespan. All of those issues is what we do. And then we create valuable research or resources, and they're research-based resources. Everything is research-based. And then we do events, and I do quite a bit of speaking that inform, inspire, and ignite growth and change for all Utahns. I also have written a lot of books. Most of them are very scholarly. I have a couple. I don't have any of these left. I brought them. I have some copies over there that you are welcome to grab. A Future Only God Can See for You, a guide for teen and young adult women on preparing to lead. So it's a church related. So I have a few copies, like I said, over there. Now, as an introduction, and if you were here at noon, you've heard this, but as an introduction, people say to me often, you do this girls and women stuff all the time. Do you not like men? I'm like, actually, I love men. I'm married to one. I have 4 kids, 3 sons. I have 3 grandsons, 3 granddaughters. And then from time to time, people say to me, you do all this girls and women stuff. You must have been raised with a bunch of sisters. So I thought I'd start today by showing you a picture of my siblings. So I do have 6 brothers. I'm second to the oldest. So some people say, why are you interested in this work that you're doing? And I say, first of all, I believe leadership, I'm a leadership professor, is the combination of head, heart, and hands. And my head likes to think about it, and my heart feels it, and my hands want to help with change. So all of those things, and that combination can be powerful. And I'm going to talk to you in a little bit about calling. I feel in calling, I feel called to be a mother, or to mother. I use that word more often. And it's not an or. And I feel called to do this work. I feel absolutely called by God. The steps, I didn't know what I was going to do exactly, but I knew that I needed to continue my education, have some babies, stay at home for a time, work part-time, go back, and all of the pieces. And now, as I'm feeling really old right now from this day. I started at 2 this morning. So I'm like saying the word old too many times today. But when you're doing the work that I do right now, I just sometimes feel this great, I'm in awe that I've been able to follow the personal revelation I have received and depended on that more than opinions of people to guide the decisions I need to do so that I could be prepared in a way that I was able at one time after another to say yes when opportunities come. Sometimes there's all kinds of workshops for women. How to say no. And I'm like, meh. Just the powerfulness is to say yes to the things that you're prepared to do. Already off topic. Let me get back on. So I wanted to think about this word career path, and I have always, and I've done extensive research and writing on women's career paths, but I've always used that word sometimes differently than other people. A career is broadly defined as the ongoing journey of professional and personal development through a series of occupations, roles. Did you get that? Occupations, roles, experiences that reflect an individual's skills, interests, values, and goals. So my years as a stay-at-home mother is part of my career journey. What I've learned, and I won't share it in this presentation, but in some of my books, I have this, like when I interviewed 10 of the women governors in the United States numbers of years ago, I have a book on that, and they told me all these things that helped them develop leadership from being a mom. Like they use all of those things. And so that's critical. I have 3 slides with like 50 on each slide of all the different things. And I'll tell you, I'll just mention that I'm on BYU campus, but I'm still going to say my oldest son, he's 38 now, he was hell to raise. Just absolutely. Even in the womb, I was a junior high teacher at the time, and we had baggy clothes back then, but my students could just see him going after it. And they put me in the hospital 3 times for internal. Have you ever even heard of that? Internal bruising from this kid. So 3 nurses said, this is a wild child. And he still is. But my point with that is that years ago when I was doing this data qualitative analysis and pulled all that motherhood, I talked to him about lots of other things. It came to me so powerfully that this kid has been a gift to me. I mean, he was 3 weeks late. He was colicky. He was not nice to our other kids. I had to protect the other kids from him once they were born and various things. But he has taught me so many things, how to pick battles in high school, long hair, no drugs, right? Conflict management, sibling rivalry. And you know, the best thing, I could go on and on, but I'll just give you one more. The best thing that kid taught me, every single morning when I woke up, no matter what he did or said, I loved that kid. I am a super good forgiver. That's a leadership quality. I forgive and forgive and forgive. And he taught me that. So it's interesting, and I've studied this, like I said, and published on these things. So when we're talking today, think about that broader definition. All of them relate to career. So fatherhood, but other things in the community, church callings, those kinds of things. But the key, and I don't have this quote in here, I don't think, but the key in the research says it's not experiences that teach you. Think about that. It's reflection on the experiences. You can have an experience and not learn anything. Or you can analyze it, think about it, not get into too much rumination. So, okay, I have a couple of quotes from the church. I published a piece I don't remember when it was. Pandemic got I think it was during that or maybe at the beginning of the pandemic. I wrote a piece for BYU Studies Quarterly, I think it's called Rise and Run, like run for office, and good government. So church members are encouraged to participate in political and government affairs in many countries. This may include, you can see that whole list, voting, joining and serving in political parties, providing financial support, communicating, this is in the handbook, participating in peaceful legal protests, see, that's in there, serving in elected or appointed offices in local and national government. Members are also encouraged to participate in worthy causes to make their communities wholesome places to live and raise families. So I'm going to give you an example of what I'm doing in the space that we're rounding up. We have probably in the work I'm doing, we started a couple of years ago to a movement called the Boulder Way Forward, and we have about 7,000 people around Utah engaged right now in all 29 counties, about 300 leaders, about 500 partners, and growing from there. So in my mind, I don't want to take too much time on this, but in my mind, when we see or hear or talk about the word civic engagement or community engagement, to me, and what we're using in this movement I'm leading in the state of Utah, A Boulder Way Forward, we're actually focusing on all five areas. One is this voting, of course, engaging voter registration, supporting the community involvement, volunteering for local organizations or causes, participating in neighborhood associations or town halls, organizing, attending community events. We're doing all of this. In fact, in the last month, we've just started opening up our system, our movement, I'm calling it, to cities and towns and counties. And so Utah County hasn't come on. I don't think any of the Utah cities yet. We just started opening it. But Salt Lake County, which is the biggest, just put a proclamation together to be our first Boulder Way Forward county, and later that day, San Juan County. Does anyone even know where that is? Blanding, over, down, okay. And then Carbon, do you know where that? Carbon County has just come on, and I think our latest city was North Logan. So they're drawing up documents. And one of the most interesting things all these proclamations thus far have, this is going to be shocking to you, is a commitment to actually use research to inform decisions. Did you get a few of yours smiling? Seems really like logical, right? Doesn't always happen. So this is such an important, and then political voice, joining political parties, interest groups, running for office, participating in debates or forums. I remember years ago, I was at UVU at the time, and I taught this evening MBA class, and a couple of people in the course evaluations at the end said, people just argued too much in this class. And I was a debater, and I taught speech and debate. And this whole thing about you're just not supposed to argue or disagree with anything. That's what the church teaches. I'm like, no, there's a way to present your arguments and not have, are you following me? And really, but that's misunderstood. The fourth one is civic knowledge and education. Stay informed. So that's a piece. Just to understand, it's hard, isn't it, to stay informed about all the current events right now? And I do some. I just read the headings. I get an email every morning from the Tribune and Deseret News. My husband does all the national. And understand the structure, promoting civic education in schools and community, and then this whole piece of fostering the Capitol building, fostering trust and cooperation among community members, and building networks that support civic initiatives. So this is a lot of stuff to throw out at you. Like I said, I got up at 2, so my words are a little bit bumbled here and there. But that's what we're taking on in pieces of the movement that we're doing. So what we're passionate about is making sure men and women, my focus is more on women, but what we know is there's a lot of women in Utah who are not using their voice. And I had 2 politicians running for office right now I was talking to yesterday who both said when they were knocking doors the week before, they ran into at least one person, and they had had many before, one woman that said, I don't know, you'll have to talk to my husband about how we're going to vote. And I'm like, what the crap? No, I don't swear, but crap and sucks. I do get, I just have to do it sometimes. And I'm like, okay, there's something that needs to change there. We have to have men and women voting, engaging, on causes that are really important. And do we need women running for office as much as men? Absolutely, we have to do that. Things change when there's more equal numbers of men and women. Think about state legislature. There's research that says states with more women as legislators allocate funding differently than states like Utah. What do you think the number one thing, if you are in a state with more women, what do you think the number one thing that gets more money? Yeah, K through 12 specifically, education. And healthcare and for families, those kinds of things, but also social issues like homelessness, poverty. In Utah, we have high rates of domestic violence. We have high rates of rape and sexual assault. We have high rates of child sexual abuse and little funding that go to the shelters to try and help people, let alone there's so little funding going to anything related to prevention. I mean, that's really key. So we need the stuff men do too. Men, not every man, but it's the same. But men tend to care about other things. We need those too. My point is, for men and women, are you following me? We've got to have, we're just made differently. We have different experiences. We have different things. My husband never paid attention, his great dad, to safety so much. The kids just ran around in the road and almost got killed numbers of times. And I just pay attention to making sure they are not run over by buses and things like that. I think God may watch over men when they're caring for children a little bit more, because you're nodding, so you know what I'm talking about. So let me tell you now, so I've kind of set the stage, and now I want to get into what we're doing, and then I'll come back to careers. So are you ready? Are you with me? Okay. All right. Keeping myself going here. So here we go. And you'll see how it all ties together. So here's a bolder way forward. What we know, and I mentioned some of this, is that national and statewide studies continue to show that girls and women in Utah are not thriving in critical areas. And we do tons of research to show that. And year after year, we have high rates, and I just mentioned that. We're also ranked as the worst state for women's equality. That's not the end all. There's lots of pieces of data, and unfortunately, we don't have data. I'm trying to get some of your researchers over in family life to do some data collection and comparison between states on things related to motherhood and some things that we would rate, but we have what we have, right? We have low levels of women's leadership representation in nearly all domains, and the needle has moved slightly in a few areas in the past decade or so. And just to move back for a little bit, I'm a women's leadership scholar, and I have done some things at the United Nations before and the European Union where they bring together scholars and look at like how many decades will it take till we receive parity. So for the first time in 2022, brought this back and said, okay, let's think about this in terms of Utah. And what was really clear is that the way we're moving now, even though there's things being done, it'll be 3 to 4 decades to make notable progress. I have a 2-year-old Savannah who's a twin granddaughter, and Hadley who's 6, and Miriam who's 12, 2 different families. And I'm like, that's not okay for my grandkids. Is it okay for your, it's not okay. We've got to make change fast. And by the way, I love being a woman most of the time. And I too love living in Utah. So there are good things about Utah, but I'm going to bring you some depressing stuff. So, and then we'll turn it, right? This is what we say is it's time for Utah to embrace a bolder way forward, because when we lift girls and women here, we're actually lifting families. We're lifting, and that includes boys and men, right? And so that's the background. And then if we're serious about ensuring that Utah girls and women thrive, we just have to create change faster. Now, I started this in 2023 and launched this. So we're 2 and some months in. And it's a 7-year. So instead of 3 to 4 decades, let's see if using what we call a systems thinking approach can get us where we need to faster. And this really includes a shift from outputs, just measuring what we're doing, to actually outcomes. Like, are there differences because of this? So very researched background. Now, part of my doctoral work is in change, organization development and change, societal change. I've studied that for years. I'm also a women's leadership scholar, as I mentioned. But in 2022, I read this book, 2 Flights to Costa Rica, 2 Flights Back, read the whole book. By the way, I was in Costa Rica to do some, I did some work at the parliament in representing the church and running some events there, and and I love if I have a good translator going back and forth. So this one translator, she was awesome. She was like 9 months pregnant. So I'm like, can you make it till my event tomorrow? So she did a YSA fireside, and we did many things, and just had such a good rhythm going. It's really fun. It's challenging, but it's really, really fun. So read this book, and I will tell you, I have had probably 3 experiences where I'm on airplanes. I don't know if it's because I'm closer to the heavens, or I'm trapped in a seat and I have to calm my mind. Maybe a combination, where I receive absolutely clear personal revelation from on high for hours. And that happened on this flight, because I had been saying to myself and my husband, I'm like, things aren't moving. I've been working so many years. And so either I do something different, or I spend more time in Hawaii on the beach. Those are my 2 choices. And so this came and was quite powerful. And what this book did, How Change Happens, Why Some Social Movements Succeed While Others Don't. It took many examples, but Mothers Against Drunk Driving, the efforts to really reduce smoking in the United States, things that were really successful, and paired them against things that just, maybe they had a lot of money, they weren't successful. What was the difference? The difference is really this systems thinking, shifting in 7 years instead of 3 to 4 decades. And it's really around the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. Now, there's lots of pieces going, but you can't really understand a system by just seeing what pieces and parts. There's the relationship between the parts that is critical, and that's the key. And in Utah, we're great at pieces and parts. We have things going on, lots of stuff. Yet we're not shifting. Is this making sense? So this is the model we really are moving forward. And this looks complex, but I'll just give you a 1 or 2 minute overview. Instead of just choosing one thing to work on, we've researched all of these things. And it's like, actually, everything relates to everything. So if women have, which we have evidence to show, women more than men are unprepared in the financial space. And part of that comes with, we have a bad ranking in terms of, we have one of the widest gaps between 8th grade boys and 8th grade girls on math. Is that genetics? Other states don't have a gap. Other countries, no. What is it? Socialization. It's the way we're raising those messages somehow. So girls are thinking, I'm not good at math. I'm not good at science. Actually, they are. They're just, because of socialization, not interested in that. But finance connects to domestic violence very clearly. I won't spell it out, but finance actually connects to every single one of these. Understanding and being confident in money, all of those things. So we have 5 categories, and 18 spokes is what we call them. So we have spoke leaders, we have a whole language. And again, 7,000 people engaged, 29 county coalitions. And we have each one, this is not new stuff. What we do on child sexual abuse, we're 1 in 7 kids in the state of Utah, we're above the national average, will experience child sexual abuse in the state of Utah. So SAPRIA, Prevent Child Abuse Utah, Maloof Foundation, I don't know if you know any of these organizations, the Children's Justice Centers, this effort has pulled them all together. they're leading that. We're honing, helping them establish goals, helping them do research. And so I won't go through all of these. Well, the health across the lifespan is our biggest one, 8 sub-spokes on mental health, various different things. Intermountain Health and University of Utah Health and Regents Blue Cross Blue Shields are the leader, the hub of that. So that'll give you a feel. Do you see home and family? Some people, there was someone when we were, they were talking and voting the council at Salt Lake County that got up to oppose being a Boulder Way Forward county and said, the people leading this just want to get women out of their homes and into the workplace. I'm like, no, we got home and family. We need to respect each other, and we just, whatever, so there's misunderstanding there. But you can see right here, to me, this is a foundational element. Political representation, boards and commissions, we're talking really state level, but also local level. There's decisions that get made there. Those are volunteer positions. And then civic engagement advocacy that all go with this. Because if we can get more women and male allies, that's a piece of this model. To get men in this, we have to. And do men care about women and girls? They should. They have daughters and spouses, and it all impacts all of this. So we have lots of things going. The rims we have some identity. We just have to remember race, ethnicity, and what we do. We need to remember LGBTQ. We need to remember disabilities. We need to remember those things. So we have that going. So a lot going, but this provides so much space. Can you see? For instance, in health, we are 46th, and we've been 50th on women's preventative health care in the state. We're one of the 5 worst on mammography rates. Something's going on. Women aren't getting the message that actually let's take care of ourselves. Put the oxygen mask on us first so that we can help our families. So there's lots of different efforts. So many spaces, people are coming out of the woodwork. Let me just tell you, that have not used their voice. Maybe they have a church, right? They're used to that. That's comfortable. But for a lot of people here, especially women in Utah, getting out and using your voice in a different way outside church is really new, and it's really scary for a lot of people. But once they find their passion, they can find their voice, and then that can lead to, I've seen it. I know one of my good friends is the lieutenant governor, and her story is awesome. And she was a stay-at-home mom all these years, and the way she got in, and then all of a sudden she's realizing, wait, I know more than these other men out there, maybe, that are telling me they know more, and then she decides to run, and then she becomes a senator, and then now she's the lieutenant governor. And she never saw herself doing that, but she was passionate about a couple of small topics, and then that moved forward. The power that can come from that is just powerful. So all of these are engaging partners, but people too, people across the movement. And that's really powerful. So and each of the spokes have really bold goals for 2030, and we go to campuses and women's groups and towns and cities and coalitions and companies and all kinds of things. So we need more than 7,000, but that's what we have right now. And by the way, the only reason I'm doing this, and I said it before, because I'm getting tired, I'm getting old, is because I absolutely feel called by God to do it. That is the only reason, because it's kind of tough. There's some headwinds in this work. I mean, the HB 261 shut down all the public women's resource centers, all the clubs. I was mentioning to them, when I speak, and I speak quite often, when I talk about this, I'm like, and people smirk a little bit at this. You'll appreciate this. I say, BYU now is the best place, most supportive place for women, because you have the clubs and so forth. And people are like, what? So it's fascinating. And so this is really inclusive in terms of civic engagement. So a couple more slides on this, and then I'll pull it back. The overarching goal is to make Utah a place where more girls and women and families can thrive in any setting. And there's not one metric. It took us almost 2 years, a year and a half, to figure out, people just don't measure. How do we measure change? The research on change, you have to have a goal, you have to have results, an eye on that to really move change forward. So we have a lot of those we're tracking, and we continue to locate and track data. And these are tools. So some of these areas, there's not a lot of public policy that can be done. But in others, there is public policy. A year and a half ago, the Policy Project, she's a dear friend of mine, Emily, who runs that, they helped push through with Supriya and other partners some funding that will help child sexual abuse. So it's going into the schools, especially elementary schools, and age-appropriate conversations and so forth. That powerful and needed a public policy. Yet some others may just use messaging and research and training and development. All of these things need to be a piece of that. So there's a lot of work to be done. So this is really, overall, one more slide. Utah must do better to ensure that everyone thrives. And I just want to make sure and say this piece, because I have found in the state of Utah we have, and probably outside too, we have a really strong scarcity mentality. And that means for me, if I lift my sisters of color, does that take from me? If I'm a man and really support women, does that take from men? Actually, that's the prevalent thought, that if we lift someone, somehow that takes from us. And my argument is that we're not lifting girls and women at the expense of boys and men. Not at all. Boys and men will be lifted. I always say, when they're like, why don't you do boys and men? I'm like, I'm called to do girls and women. Let's get some other researchers to do boys and men. I'm not offended at that. Please do. Do we need work with boys and men too? It's different work. It's absolute, and it's critical. And so abundance mentality is what I call for, right? We can lift and be lifted. So I just challenge you to think about that. And again, as we strengthen the impact of Utah girls and women, we strengthen everyone. So I want to go back to this. That's my case and what I'm passionate about. And I mentioned when I'm like, I won't come unless I can talk about Boulder Way Forward, because I have limited time these days. But I was thinking about this career element that's so interesting. So I have people, 7,000 about, we think, engaged, and even in the leaders we have about 300 leaders, and they're leading change. And some do it on their own time, but many of them, it's part of their work. And because their organizations want to do community work and support them. Is this making sense? So I have doctors that are leading change. I have lawyers that are leading change. I have mothers that are leading change. I have fathers who are leading change. I have construction workers, a couple of women who are in the Women in Construction. There's a network in the state who are leading change in this model at various levels. And some in political science. It may not be their paid job to work with Boulder Way Forward, but it's part of their career and their learning, and it relates to I've got a number of doctors and 2 OBGYNs in that from Intermountain that are really working on things. But any career, I bet we can find in the group that we're doing. So this is a different way to look at a career if you want to lead change. And I would argue, I'm a change person, I love change, and I would argue that the gospel of Jesus Christ is the gospel of change. Every week, every day, we're asked to change. to be better. Are you following this? To be better, to change, to be more kind, to open our hearts more. All of that is about change. And so if we're leading change in ourselves, instead of being like, oh, I don't want to have anyone tell me I need to change, or I don't want to do change. Doing better is all about change, and embracing change is how we need to move forward on that. So all careers can focus on leading change. So I'm just pushing you to think about that as you're thinking about careers, whether it's political science or law or what else is in this room? Like women's studies or biology, or could biology be about leading change? Absolutely. I mean, there's elements of that. And what I found, though, is that there's not a lot of people in many of these careers that actually understand how to lead change. They throw spaghetti against the wall and see what sticks. And guess what? As a change scholar, that's really risky. We're just doing more stuff. We're not necessarily doing the right stuff. So I would challenge you in your classes, in the work that you're doing, grab onto the pieces about change, because that is technology. I mean, it's around us. And the more that you have that understanding of change, whether it's in, medicine, law, whatever, biology, man, that's where I know there's like 10 million other careers, but you got the ones that are on my mind right now, at least, or being a professor, or any of those things. When you focus and understand research-based change, you can do better. I wish I knew as much as I did now when I was even raising kids, because some of the growth mindset, fixed mindset, there's some really interesting stuff that I would have spoken a little bit differently to my kids, because a lot of things we naturally say as parents are in the fixed mindset, when in reality, if we can get things into the growth mindset for raising kids and so forth, they're open to change, they're wanting change, they're thriving on effort, not, oh, this is the way I was made and I'm always going to be the same. So I want to give you a couple of, my time's going, so I am getting at the end here. So, but a few tips here. First of all, one of the most powerful things, and women struggle with this more than men generally, the literature talks about, is understanding your gifts and strengths. You might think but women have been taught not to talk about them. We're supposed to be humble. So we dismiss. People say, oh, you did this beautiful. Oh, that was nothing. Do you know what I'm talking about? We're taught to do that. And when we do that in the workplace, we're actually not acknowledging what we do. So when we understand our gifts and strengths, that helps us in careers, in development, in so many different things. And I know, don't worry about this academic stuff here, but I just wanted to show you, this is a calling model, not out of the Latter-day Saint faith, but out of CCCU, the Council of Christian Colleges and Universities. I love this, to find your call. And by the way, women, 30 to 40% more than men, really want a purpose in their work. My husband says sometimes, can't you just go make a lot of money? Why do you have to have meaning in everything you do? Women, typically, we like that even more. Of my brothers, one really is pretty close to me in terms of his depth of wanting purpose. But look at what's in the middle. When we know and use our uniqueness, our giftedness, what we're good at, what God has given us, the talents that we've strengthened, then we are more powerful in that purpose. Maybe your paid work is not all about this, but the way you use your expertise for community work in church, it's all part of the same thing. And so I'm not going to go through these, but I published a couple of chapters on the benefits of feeling a call, whether, for me, and this is what I say, no matter what country I'm in. I've done this in Athens, Middle East. I said, for me, I'm religious and spiritual. And for me, my call comes from God. I actually say that no matter where I'm at in the world. And I say, for people that are not religious and spiritual, you can feel called too. But look at the benefits the research has said when people feel that purpose or calling. I love this. Our deepest calling is to grow into our own authentic selfhood, whether or not it conforms to some image of who we ought to be. As we do so, we will not only find the joy that every human being seeks, we will also find our path of authentic service in the world. True vocation joins self and service, as Frederick Buechner asserts when he defines vocation as, I love this, I love this, I love this, the place where your deep gladness meets the world's deep need. Isn't that beautiful? Nod. Are you with me? Okay, yes, okay. And then I just wanted to show this slide. I won't go through it. But even just the benefits of volunteering and engaging. And again, I've looked at all of these things in my own research. This came from some of my studies about 20 years ago. That you learn all of these kinds of things from volunteering. So they're part of your career. They're part of your development. And so I would say to really think about, you know, your decisions about your careers, but also the developmental opportunities you take, even in moments that can change, that can move, and bigger things as well. I always say, you know, use this. You've heard it. If not me, who? If not when, now when? And I will tell you, you might think, okay, I'm going to wait till after college and this and that. But there are things that, and I call them in my literature, transformational moments, where you're just walking to class, you say something, you listen to something, and you or the other person are changed forever. They see themselves differently. Those are service. Those are acts of volunteerism. So I have a couple quotes to finish this off. I use this one often in my Bolder Way Forward work, and this is Martin Luther King, Jr. Every society has its protectors of the status quo and its fraternities of the indifferent who are notorious for sleeping through revolutions. Today, our very survival depends on our ability to stay awake, to adjust to new ideas, to remain vigilant, and to face the challenge of change. We've been sleeping a lot here in Utah. We've been silent about things that are not okay with God. And we need to change those, and we're expected to change those with our heads, hearts, and hands. So we need to do that, and then also wake other people up. So that's your job tonight. Wake one other person up and give them a little bit of information and knowledge. I love this. You have a choice. You can throw in the towel or you can use it to wipe the sweat off your face. When I dare to be powerful, to use my strength in the service of my vision, then it becomes less important whether I'm afraid. And then I do love this. Each time a person stands up for an idea or acts to improve the lot of others or strikes out against injustice, she sends forth a tiny ripple of hope, and crossing each other from a million different centers of daring and energy and daring, those ripples build a current that can sweep down the mightiest walls of oppression and resistance. And with the different majors you have, or the minors, you're in this heart space, you're in this purpose space. Aren't you with me? Aren't you in this, like, wanting to change the world, wanting to change whatever? So you get this. And then the last one, I think I spelled his name wrong. It's 2 L's. We should learn and advocate the inspired principles of the Constitution. We should seek out and support wise and good persons who will support those principles in their public actions. We should be knowledgeable citizens who are active in making our influence felt in civic matters. In the United States and in other democracies, political influence is exercised by running for office, which we encourage, by voting, financial support, membership and service, political parties, and by ongoing communication to officials, parties, and candidates. So you're in the right space to do that. I'll tell you, your voice, your passion needs to spread, because a lot of people are uncomfortable in this space. Is that a shock? There's so many people. In fact, there's a report that's out there that's specifically called the Opportunity Connection. And it's really recent. It was published earlier this year. And of all the things people are uncomfortable connecting about, race and various things, the one that's skyrocketed to the top is political differences. So how do we talk about those in different ways? Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. So you have my email here. I know I can stay after for questions. I ended up getting going on something else at the beginning, so I took too much time. But there are some copies of my book. You're welcome to grab those. Don't make me carry them back to my car. You can read them during Christmas if you want, if you have too much to read. Thank you for being here and listening to my ramblings tonight. Thank you. It's been great to be here.